Welcome to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. Con season continues with a look at shows from yet another perspective, that of the collector. I'm very excited to welcome a brand new voice to My Comic Shop History. Please welcome Frank Rucco.
Anthony, how you doing, man? Hey, everybody.
This is great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to bring you into the My Comic Shop History fold and have you speak for the collectors out there who go to these shows hunting for items, hunting for grails. I think this will be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's pretty much like a year-long preparation because I think all the conventions, they're so spread out. It isn't like, okay, everything happens right now. Because, you got San Diego Comic-Con that's coming up. That comes around, maybe June or July, whatever case may be. And then you've got your, Philadelphia Comic-Cons. You got your smaller conventions out in the area, Northeast Comic-Con. You've got the one coming up in Connecticut, I believe. That's supposed to be a really, really, really cool one. And then cutting around, you've got the smaller ones, the more themed ones to the brand, G.I. Joe Comic-Con. That's the final one coming out this June, the end of June. So that's going to be the final one put out by the G.I. Joe Club. And you got October coming around where you've got the big one, the New York Comic-Con. So, yeah, it's exciting. It's just planning your time, putting in your vacation days for work, making sure you've got the time set up. And then now you're getting, I think there was, what was it? I think I looked at toyark.com. That's another great website. They're showing the San Diego Comic-Con, some of the exclusives now that are starting to show up and everything. So everybody's getting their pads and paper and wondering, how am I going to get there? Or who can I ask who's going there? And, the pre-sales start coming up on eBay and everything. So, yeah, it's definitely, our wallets start screaming.
Yeah, there are so many shows. It's interesting. I mean, that's something that, often when I think about that, I think about it from the perspective of, people who are putting on shows or vendors who are going to shows. But from the fan, customer, collector perspective, yep, it can almost be a burden as well because again, as you were saying, you have to budget your time and your money.
Yes. That was something that I try to follow. And, speaking for myself, but, I'm sure other collectors out there probably would agree with me, is you have to live. I think when you're a collector, you have to live within your budget. It's great to have these things out there on our shelves to show off and have our fortress of solitude, our room for thinking and everything. You have a bad day, honey, I'm going into the room, You want to enjoy that collection. You don't want your collection to control you. And what I mean by that is, you want to pay your bills. Put, food on the table, take care of your family, whatever case may be. Then after that, you want to save money, put money away for a rainy day. And then that little extra money, you save it up. You get yourself, a collectible, be it a comic book, a baseball card, a toy, or so, whatever case may be. And you got to manage it right, because you don't want to have it where you've got something that's so great, I finally got it's great, and then a couple of months down the line, I got to sell it. Well, why? I have to pay rent. I got to pay a car bill. Just be like, you know what I mean? You don't want that to happen in your collection. And I'll tell you, it's a fine line. It's a fine line because with a collection, you have an emotion attached to it. Same thing, they'll say that with a house. When this time is right, when you want to look for that house and it hits you, it grabs you. It's the same thing with a collection. And it's just, you got to learn to, if you're doing a bidding war, you got to be willing to pull back. You got to be willing to walk away from it, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. And you find yourself sometimes, it's just like, you got this great collection, but, I'm in debt for $4 or $5 grand on my credit cards.
Right.
You don't want to do that. Then you're not enjoying your collection.
No, I mean, I think that's very sound advice. A mutual friend of ours, Steve Odo, one of his Odoisms is buy the best you can afford.
Yes.
Right. So I think that makes, a tremendous amount of sense.
Steve, and, you and I, we've I grew up in Yonkers my whole life. It wasn't until I moved out of Yonkers to Rockland County in around like 88. So the places that we always went to was alternate realities. I think at the time, I don't know if you remember, there was the Dragon's Den.
I remember
That
Dragon's
place,
Den.
you know what I
sure,
mean?
yep.
Dragon's Den. But I got to tell you, alternate realities. Steve, he was there the longest, man, and that was one of like the true last comic book stores. And I remember talking to him, and he still has that sound advice where it's like, if you're gonna spend the money, spend it on something it's good. You don't want to spend money on something and then the cover's ripping off or something like that, and you're flipping until you finally get the one in the condition that you want.
Right.
Old construction or carpenter, measure twice, cut once. That's same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
Now, speaking of you shopping at alternate realities, you'll have to forgive me. I can't recall any specific interactions that we had. I don't know if we had any.
Well, I remember seeing you a couple of times. I don't know if you know Geraldo. Geraldo was always going there. A lot of the times when I would go was pretty much like after work. So it was like maybe around this time, probably 6:30. So I don't know if you were there or you ever did the late shifts or anything like that, or the weekends. It was like kind of tough.
But now, were you a regular? Did you have a pull box or no?
No, didn't have a pull box. I should have had with the amount of money I spent on comic books. I should have, but yeah, it was, great times. Great times.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to talk to you now. It's funny. I was thinking about this because in looking back over previous guests I've had on the show, pretty much everyone else I've either known very well personally before the recording, or it's a creator or a convention organizer or a retailer, and I can do a fair bit of research.
Yep.
In this case, I was able to do some recon on you before this, but for the most part, I'm really just excited to get to know you and chat and learn about what you do. And what's cool for listeners of the show, you kind of bridge the gap across the various seasons of the show because, again, you were a customer at Alternate Realities. You're a collector. That was our theme for season 2.
Yep.
Last season, we talked about other comic book stores, and I know, obviously, you've been to other stores. Yep. And then this season, conventions, that's really the driving theme, and I know that's a big part of what you do. So this is a great episode. I think it really brings everything together.
Definitely.
So I said you're the collector, you're a collector representative for this episode. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, and I want to go back through some of your collecting history and all of that. But what do you collect?
I collect, let's see, my favorite has always been G.I. Joe. So that's what I grew up with. I'm a kid of the 80s. So definitely G.I. Joes. Loose, that's what I've always played with, things like that. My second from that is Transformers. So the original, the G ones, I still have the ones that I had as a kid. Star Wars, definitely. I would have to say those are my big three. My G.I. Joe, my Transformers, and the Star Wars. Little bit here and there then of little pop culture things from, I've got a couple of the 18 figures, a 3 3/4. Got the Mego 3 3/4, Bo and Luke Duke and the General, a couple of Spawn things here and there. Big on Voltron, Robotech, anything big bots, combiners, just something about those. Those are awesome. And then your Marvel and DC, your DC Classic Universe, your Marvel Legends. So those in diecast. If you really want to put 1 in 18 diecast cars, comic books, baseball cards. Not a lot with the baseball cards now. They've kind of nosedived. Pretty much anything after 1980. It's nothing really spiked with that. Yeah, man.
Yeah, the cards are fun. I don't know that I've ever even talked about this on the show. I must have at some point, but I was a huge basketball card collector.
Oh, okay.
In elementary school. I still have them. They're in a box in a closet. I don't really know what to do with them. I don't think there's anything that's necessarily worth much.
I go through them. That's the biggest thing also is with documenting, I guess, what I collect. I have an Excel sheet.
I was going to ask how you catalog it.
Yeah, I have an Excel sheet that's broken down by what the item is, how it is. I'll have 5 tabs on the Excel sheet that's G.I. Joe from vintage to the modern to the movie. Same thing, Transformers, vintage to the masterpiece stuff. Things broken down to that, and it takes you a couple of weeks to really document, because the other thing is also insurance. You want to insure. You're spending that amount of money on a collection. You be sure you have that, insured. And, I've gotten like different stories from it from, I'm friends with Jordan Hembrow, the toy hunter. He's got his place in Jersey, Hollywood Heroes. And, I asked him, he goes, how do you insure it and everything? He goes, well, contents insurance, so full contents of the stuff. If it's a personal collection, you're calling insurance companies, and, you'll go to the conventions, and there's a couple of booths that are set up, insure your collection here and try this there. And then they say, oh, well, renter's insurance. Well, not necessarily renter's insurance. Renter's insurance does not cover everything. And another thing I've heard is when you call the insurance company, don't say it's a collection. What they perceive as a collection is totally different what we perceive as a collection.
Oh, interesting.
You tell them, and it's funny, you tell them, because what do you want to insure? My toys. Be straight up, because they know, come on, we've seen that, was it the State Farm insurance or everything, where they're like, oh, Barry, you should insure your collection, and then a plane flew through the house or something like that. They know there are collections, but you have to do your homework. You have to research that. People may wonder, why do you have all these receipts and everything? Well, it's to document what the worth is. If you go to a convention or a collector show and everything like that, okay, not everybody has receipts. So what do? I've seen guys with little notepads with their own little receipts, and they're noting, okay, talk to this guy. Do you have a website? Do you have an email address? They note it down. Okay, spent this amount of money. And it may be like, to anybody else, man, you really want to know? No, you're documenting what you have. And having a collection it's fun, but it's also cumbersome. You got to maintain it.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a second job.
It
really
well, I mean, on that note, and I know you have a catalog, you probably could give me a specific number, but I mean, generally speaking, how many pieces are we talking about in this collection? And if it's cool with you, I would love to throw up some photos on the Facebook
Oh my God.
page,
Yeah. No, I'll definitely,
would
love
to see it.
Oh my God. It's funny. I have it on a separate drive that's in the car downstairs. I should have brought it off, put it on your lap, and just be like, oh my God. A couple of thousand pieces. I mean, and you know what? For me, that's a lot. To other collectors, they'd be like, "Oh man, that's one room." That you've and like I said, I'm humbled. I've got a simple room, high ceiling, cathedral ceiling. I'm able to put a lot in there.
Yeah, and you have everything displayed.
Oh, right? I got everything displayed. Like, there's some stuff that you have mint and card. I tell you, mint and card is a disease, because you get started in it. I started really, I guess, consciously thinking I'm a collector. This was in 96 when Power of the Force was reintroduced by Star Wars. All the figures had muscles. And that's when my friend Jeff got me into it again. And I think that's when I consider myself, I'm collecting. Other than that, I was just like, I still have my toys from when I was a kid.
Right. It's like you had these toys growing up. You played with them?
Yes. Played with. Enjoyed.
That's the way to do it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, unless it's something rare, like I recently got at JoeCon last year a 1982 carded Snake Eyes, the straight arm. So that's, that I'm leaving carded and everything. But I like it that it's been played with. It's been enjoyed. There's a history behind it, and unless it's like something really, really rare that it has to be, I'm like, okay, I got to have it box. I has to have it. I open it up. It's not the vintage stuff,
right.
But yeah, I mean, like, everything's all modern. It's all modern stuff. And, some people may argue, would be like, yeah, but, that's what they thought about the G.I. Joes and Transformers, and look at them now. They're being graded. There's still some being found that are sealed. And yeah, but for me, I'm 45. Me and my little lady, we got our own house. We don't have kids, but I'm Uncle Frank to all my friends and kids. My nephew, love him to death. I took him to Toys R Us before they started doing the sales. First time being Toys R Us kid. Open them up, have fun, display them all and everything like that. But it's it's amazing. You makeshift these different shelves and furniture and old stuff from my grandmother and makeshift shelves that are like, oh wait, I can make something out of this. You know, an old stereo rack system. Oh, that's going to be a small little display. You find a way how to like modern, organize everything, and it's something to be proud of. When your friends walk in, they're like, dude, this is like a toy store or a comic book store. I'm like, okay, I've achieved greatness right now. Everything's good to go.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. This is it's really fascinating to hear this. This really ties back in with the second season of the show, which was all about collectors and collecting behavior and the completist mentality that drives a lot of us. And that's something that as a collector, I've cooled considerably from the way I used to be with comics and statues. Not so much toys, but definitely, again, the comics and the statues and now pops to an extent.
Yep.
But, it's just always interesting to hear about these things because I know, you use the word disease. It can be an addiction in a lot of cases. But just as far as the notion of, opening them, taking them out, playing with them. I saw you at Aw Yeah a few weeks ago in Harrison for the big creator signing. And we were talking outside about this whole idea and about how these figures were made to be opened.
Yes. And that's, there has been, this is what's great when you go to the conventions or you may have your meetups. There's another great meetup called the Tri-State Vipers. And it may sound like a motorcycle gang, but these guys are awesome. These are G.I. Joe collectors in the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And each year they set up for a meet and greet and meet your fellow Joes, or Cobras, whoever your faction of loyalty is. And it's awesome. And you're buying and selling there, but you're also having some barbecue food and everything, just chilling out, having a drink, eating a burger, talking about Joes, and the conversations and the debates. Like, you'd think you were, something political was behind it, but you're talking about toys and collections and when you were a kid and you got this and Bill had the aircraft carrier and me and Chris and John, we brought our Sky Strikers and our Skyhawks and we always, and you know what I mean? And it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
But the debate on, no, it's a toy. No, it's a collection. Oh, it's got to be mint in box. No, open it up. And it's heavy debates. It truly is a heavy debate, and you got to honor that. You got to honor that where you've got passion, you've got loyalists from vintage stuff to you have a lot of people that are doing like customs, like the O-rings. Like you've got some great people that are bringing out, keeping the O-ring alive, and then people will be like, no, that's a repro. No, that's a custom. No, it's a stand-in. It's whatever it is. But the fact is, it's really intense talking over this. So yeah, man. You get somebody, a purist on the wrong side, and just say, it's a toy. How dare you? You think you did something offensive, and there's a passion behind that. From all lines, not just G.I. Joe, but Star Wars and Transformers and Star Trek and My Little Pony to Hello Kitty. The toys that made us. You've got that show that's
on Netflix.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's true. I would agree that passion is that common denominator, regardless of which philosophy you subscribe to.
Yep.
Going back to our mutual friend, Steve Odo, the former owner of Alternate Realities, I think you make him a little nervous sometimes on Facebook when you post about these things that you're opening, because he, for him, he keeps everything sealed and locked away. So I think you make him a little nervous.
The posts, and I'll be honest with you, I've calmed down with the posts a lot. I'll be honest with the whole thing with Facebook. And again, you're talking with people who you haven't talked to in a while and everything like that. But, I had my original page since 2008, and I was nuts on posting everything. Post, And then, with the whole thing with Facebook getting breached and all that stuff, and then them giving you a chance to do your data download and everything like that, they're scared the heck out of me. Because I'm looking at how much stuff I posted, and it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I got to organize this, close this out, blah, 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 blah. And the mobile uploads, 5,585 mobile uploads. The only way to delete them was one by one. I'm like, no.
Oh, you couldn't delete the album?
No, because it's a Facebook album.
I see.
It's
Yep,
a
I gotcha.
Facebook-owned album. So
Right.
the only way to delete was to go, I'm not spending my weekend deleting photos. And it got to a point where I was like, I'm sending things. Here's my new page. But you think I was promoting for something? And it took a while because people were like, oh, Frank, did you get hacked? I'm like, no, this is legit. Oh, okay. They're asking me questions, private messages. Okay, on this day, what did you say? Like, what company did your girlfriend work for? And who was one of the people that were there?
Really
And I'm like,
testing you.
oh my God. And I was like, that was the only way to do it. And I'm being more conscious about what I'm posting. But Steve-O, let me tell you something. He was just like, Frank, you're killing me. Oh, Frank, it's like you're stabbing me in the heart. I'm just like, I'm sorry, dude. I want to touch it. I want to play with it. I want to put the different heads on it, things like that. But yeah, it's hysterical. It is hysterical.
Were you ever into the Kenner Superpowers line of action figures?
Yes.
Because that's something that holds a very special place in my heart. I only have a few of them, but,
Yes.
and I've talked about this on the show before, listeners will be familiar with this, but the Superman figure from that line was the very first Superman anything that I had. And
Really?
I've always talked about how I got into comics with the death of Superman, but, and it was only when I was really reflecting on this that it clicked. I think the reason why, the death of Superman grabbed me was I had the action figure, so I knew who the character was. So that was really important in my journey. So I have now a couple of the Superman ones,
Yep.
and I have just a few of the others, but little by little I'm
Yes.
picking them up. But were you into them as well?
Yes. My big thing was Spider-Man. Power Force, not Power, Superpowers, Batman. See, for DC, Batman. For Marvel, for me, Spider-Man. So those still to this day are my main guys.
Gotcha.
That's why I don't know if you saw when we had the Legends. We went to the Legends signing. I was wearing my Superman cap, but I was wearing my Batman shirt. And somebody was like, "Hey, why are you wearing Batman?" I'm like, "Hey, Batman's here to, pay tribute to his buddy who, reached 1,000."
That's right.
But yeah, no, that was now this was kind of, and I'm still trying because some collections that I've had that I couldn't find. And now I'm refinding because they had broken or gotten rid of. Because again, plastic was not made to last this long. I remember when I was a kid, and I think it was Amigo. And I don't think it was the Fortress of Solitude, but it was the Justice League. The Hall of Justice. Now, not the Superpowers collection where it was like that
they did that play set,
that play set. It was prior to that. I want to say it may have been Mego or maybe a company that came out that covered the Mego brand or whatever it was. But I remember it had a breakaway wall. It had the table, the Justice League table with the hats and everything there. Not the hats, I'm sorry, the chairs. I don't know what I'm talking about. Had the chairs and everything. I remember it had a breakaway wall, and he came with a Superman. And I love that. And again, can't find it now. But trying to remember, 45 years ago, what was the name of it? I can't remember. But yeah, man, like Superman, that was my first, even though I love Batman, but Superman, come on, Christopher Reeves, that was huge. That was our Superman, And I remember when they had the death of Superman, it was just like, wow, like I want to say this was one of the first time that we had prolific character that snuffed out.
I know, that's the thing, these days it's a rite of passage for a character to
Yes.
die and come back. And it's
Yes.
easy to forget that at the time, like, that was a really big deal.
Kids were crying.
Yeah.
Adults were crying. Like, that was a huge, huge thing. And I think with that, we all, I don't want to say we all had our dark moments or things like that, but I have to say, we always had that character that got us through us. Like I was previously married, and what got me through it was Ultimate Spider-Man. And I have from issue 1 to issue, I think, 111. And that's where I ended it, because that's where it
That's
kind
the
of like
Bagley. Was that the end of the Bagley run, or he kept going?
No, he kept on going, because at I think Ultimate Spider-Man number 111, I think that's when Peter finally told Aunt May.
Okay.
And I think the issue ended with him and her hugging, because it was kind of like giving the okay. I know you know. But then after that, it kind of ended where the whole thing. I think they killed him off, the Ultimate line and everything like that. But that's what got me through it. That's and definitely, I think we all at different moments in our lives, we had. If you're a geek, we both are. We had that one character that kind of like got us. Stan Lee. Let's be honest, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. John Romita, they told us stories when we were a kid. They were our grandfathers. They were our uncles, unofficially. But they told us when we were supposed to go to sleep at night, and we had the flashlight, and we had that comic book rolled up, because we didn't care about it being creased. We didn't care about it being dog-eared on the corners. And if anybody doesn't know what dog-eared means, it's when the bottom flares out, be it on a carded card, figure, on a baseball card, the corners feather out, because you probably flung them, stuck them in your baseball, the bikes in the spokes, and just made the motorcycle sound with them, or you flip cards. That's what my uncle and my dad used to do in the playground. That's what we did. They told us stories, and they got us through from either a hard day at work, or as a kid, a hard day at school.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful sentiment. I mean, I agree. And I hadn't announced this yet, but I'm planning to do a book club episode on the death and return of Superman.
Cool.
I'm going to do it November. I'll release it on the day of the anniversary of the release of Superman 75.
Nice.
It's something I've wanted to do for a while, and this past year would have made the most sense because it was the milestone anniversary,
right.
But that's okay. So I'm excited to do that and talk about the story and what it's meant.
So I got to ask you, what is there a bucket list of Superman items that you want, that you've always wanted?
I wish I had a great answer for that. There really isn't. I mean, the Kenner superpowers would probably be the one, and I have that. But that was something that I had as a little kid, and then I basically destroyed it and it was gone. And then I tracked that down when I was in law school, and that's something that. It wasn't particularly hard. I just ordered it on eBay.
Yeah.
But that was something that was important to me to get.
Nice.
I guess kind of that's a good segue because, and thinking about collecting at conventions and all of that, these days with the internet, I mean, you can order almost anything online. But so I guess like why are conventions still a way for you to get these things? I think
it's there's still that hunt. With everything going on with, and I apologize for all the segues, but there's so much to tell. With everything going on for, if you've been living in a closet with Toys R Us and them closing down and everything like that, or the big box stores like Target and Walmart and everything. As a kid, you see people posting these old pictures from, like, we grew up with service merchandise, consumers, Bradley's. Anybody who's in the Westchester area or New York area, Central Avenue, we had Alexander's, we had Bradley's, we had Caldor's, we had consumers, we had service merchandise. Plus, at the time, we had Sears, Macy's sold toys, usually only during like the Christmas time and everything. But we had a catalogs full of toys that we were able to get, we were able to order. If we gave a list to our parents, I want to get this, there was a good chance they found it because there was so much. They filled those pegs. There were never peg warmers. Everything was equally distributed in those boxes. They pulled them out and you knew it was there. Nowadays, it's hard to find it because of minimum standards of what you had to order from Mattel or Hasbro or things like that. A lot of stores now, they don't want to, it's all about cost efficiency. So they don't want to be stuck with all this product. And usually the way it isn't somebody just the way it used to be. Okay, I need to order more of this and more of this. I need to get 5 of these, 2 of these. No, the system, there's an algorithm where the system's going, okay, we need more of this, more of this, more of this, more of this. It would have to be, you would have to go to Jersey, buy everything that was on the peg warmers, go to New York, return them all there, and then that New Jersey store where you took everything off, that's when they know, okay, now it's time to order more. And the hunt, it's you have a better chance of just ordering online for us as collectors. Ordering it on Amazon, timing it just right, going to HasbroToyShop.com, at the time, going to Toys R Us, Walmart website, things like that. But for a kid, I'm sorry, there's a big difference between a toy aisle and a toy store. And that's a perfect example of my nephew who's a year, 4 months, doesn't know anything about his store. I took him to Toys R Us right before they started doing the sales. I was in there for over an hour, but he picked out a toy, picked out his first tricycle. So yeah, that's, you miss out on those. But taking from that, you go to the convention, you can still have your hunt. You can still have your list. And like, okay, I gotta look for this. I gotta get 181, I gotta get 129, I gotta get 300, I gotta get this, that, I gotta see if they have this. A lot of the conventions, it's more of loose, complete, or boxed items. More of the themed conventions, like PowerCon, that's coming up, that gears towards Masters of the Universe. You have JoeCon, TFCon, that isn't there anymore. I think Hasbro's going to have their HasCon. They had that the prior year. Probably every couple of years you have your theme shows. But the hunt is still fresh there. There's still people with their list looking for a mint item, a graded, 12 back if they can find it. A sealed Optimus Prime. Any 1985 Snake Eyes with Timber. There's a good chance you're going to find it at that convention. You still got that hunt, and it's always like, we got to get there the first day. We have to be there the first day. I don't want to miss out on that. People are still going to pay the extra $20 to get in that hour early because I want to get that before everybody. Another great one. I don't know if you ever been to it. You got New Jersey Collectors Convention. That's usually in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Another great place to go to. ZoloCon. Another great place. That's just like nothing but wall-to-wall vintage stuff. Not modern, all vintage. And again, there's the hunt. The hunt is still there. It's still fresh. It's forever changed. But I think that's why people still go to these conventions. Because the camaraderie, being able to find those rare items, and of course the panels and everything like that. But that's why people still go. And the cosplay and the dressing up of your favorite character, no matter, whatever your gender is, whatever your character, what? There could be a female Professor X. You know what I mean? Just be yourself, have fun. That's why people go, and I'm still going, and I'll do it till the day I die.
Yeah, so tell me more about your convention experiences. First, I guess just to kind of put it in context, roughly how many shows are you hitting a year?
I'm hitting about, and this is simple for me, but I'm probably hitting 4 or 5 a year. I've slowed down a lot. The biggest one was New York Comic Con. That's the big one. Going to Celebration, Star Wars Celebration. That's awesome. The JoeCons. And then you got the small, like I said, the theme ones, like the New Jersey Collector Convention there. You got the Wayne Show. That's the first Sunday of every month in Wayne, New Jersey. You got New Jersey Toy Show. That's also there. RetroCon. That's another one. That's in PA. NJ ToyCon, that's the other one.
Gotcha.
But yeah, my holy grail of going is I've yet to do San Diego Comic-Con. I've yet to go. And it's usually every time I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready for it. Tickets sold out. Oh, come on.
So I want to circle back to that, but Are you strictly a fan, a customer at all of these shows, or do you set up as a vendor at any of them?
No, I'm a fan of the show. Past maybe, my gosh, maybe the past 5 times, I've helped. Like I said, I'm friends with Jordan Hembrow. I've helped him set up as a
Gotcha.
volunteer. Help him set up because, again, just hell of a nice guy, and worked it. And I got to tell you, you got to hustle. You got to hustle because you're watching the booth, of course, on top of selling, telling. It isn't just, oh, it's this, but you want to tell the story. You have people that are asking questions because you are an expert, and it's just great talking to everybody, getting pictures with the fans, things like that, or me being a fan, getting pictures. I'm not famous. I guess amongst my peers, we
Yeah, like,
all
are you
talk.
known within the collector community?
Not somewhat, but nothing as crazy as all those other guys. I mean, like I shouldn't say famous. It's just that, oh, hey Frank, hey, don't I go with a couple of friends who I'm like, oh, you got to go this, and they're like, man, you know everybody. I'm like, let me tell you something. It's a solid group of ladies and guys just being themselves, enjoying what they're doing, and you go to enough of the shows, they know you, and like I said, when it comes to the end of the show, because I get a bite to eat, have a drink, and they just talk shop, but there's guys out there, ladies out there that have these amazing collections, and have goes beyond of what you and I have, where they've got.
Well, I would not put myself in your league at all.
Oh no, but you know what? There's different levels. There's different levels. But if you saw a couple of my friends that they have where they've got like whole basements dedicated to either props or props made from the original molds, huge collections. Like there's this friend, Justice Curry, Joe Damiano, my friend Jeff. Lot of great collections. Dan, he helped do the whole thing with HasCon with the legends, the original designers. He's got a huge collection from pre-production stuff. You've got the guys from Declassified, G.I. Joe Declassified, where they've got original molds of the original 1-ups or 2-ups and things like that you see them at these collections, and oh my God, amazing stuff, prototypes, figures that were never used, totally, it's outrageous, like it doesn't even compare. I'm humbled compared to what these people have. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, like there's our different degrees of collecting.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I mean, that all sounds awesome. It's funny. I wish I could bond with you over the G.I. Joe and Transformers and Star Wars. For me, I was just a smidge too young to really get caught up in all of that. I mean, for me, a bit of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I definitely remember having those toys and watching the cartoons. Yep. But for me, and the listeners are very familiar with this, but for me, it was Power Rangers. That's really what grabbed me. But going back to what you were saying about when you have these meetups and you reminisce and you talk about the toys and everything. Last season I did a couple of episodes about Power Rangers with some fellow Power Rangers fans who are my age.
Huge fan.
Yeah,
huge fan. Only because I grew up with Voltron. My brother, who is 10 years young, he's my half brother. He's still my brother. 10 years my younger. He was into the Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, Power Rangers. He had everything up until Zeo.
Okay, so all that Mighty Morphin stuff.
Oh, he had all that stuff, and then he got tired of it, but he sold them and took that money and put it towards his house.
Good for him.
You know what I mean? So, but that's what got me, because it was that's the other thing. There's always that teamwork and everything like that. But yeah. Ghostbusters, Power Rangers. I don't know if did you get any of like the legacy, like the ones that they re-released through Toys R Us?
So that was very tempting, but I held off. But they are there.
I couldn't help it, because compared to the original, still awesome stuff with the plastic. The die cast on these, where, pennies to the dollar compared to the Bandai, Solar Chogokin, all of those. Oh yeah, I had to. And I think I got it only because it's like, that was a moment that me and my brother shared. Because at the point I was making, decent money. And anytime they came out with a Zord, I have to get it. And at the time, the Zords were going for what, $35, $40? So it was just like, Mike, I got you another one. Oh, great. And it got to a point where it was just like, stop, I'm not really into them anymore. Yeah, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, so those figures, I mean, I had them all, and they were loose, and they were played with, and eventually, I think we just sold them at a garage sale. Those I kind of wish I still had, or even just a few of them, like it'd be cool. But, when we did those episodes last season, and I was talking about this with people who shared that passion, I was talking about it for the first time in decades. It was really something, and it was just that shared passion.
Like, it warmed your heart really again, cool. Right?
Yeah, I know. It's, to talk about things that it's like, I always thought about this, but like, you never talked about it with anyone.
Yep.
So it's really cool. And then as far as, again, going back to the collector behavior of this, we talked about how a lot of collectors do have that completist mentality. I mean, do you describe yourself as a completist? I mean, how obsessively do you need to have everything, or not at all, I suppose?
I'll be honest with you. For me, the extent of being a completist would have to be of that item. So if I had a figure, I would have to make sure, all the accessories were there, and I had the file card. If it was the vehicle, I gotta have to have those blueprints and complete and everything like that. But I'm not a completist to the point where I need every figure complete, every vehicle complete from every wave of every year, going up from 82 through 91. I don't need everything. It was the ones that really caught my eye.
Right.
And same thing with the Transformers. I didn't need the Headmasters. I didn't need the what was it? The not the Headmasters, the human ones, the ones that went to the shells of the body. I forget what it was. It was only ones that really caught me. I'm not an army builder. I don't need 20 Vipers. I don't need 20 drivers. It was just those, I have gotten rebitten again with the whole, with the Palitoy UK versions, like the Z-Force, which are just recolors, redesign, more. But again, it's like, you got to pull back. You're like, easy. You're losing room.
Yeah.
It's hard. It really is hard.
So I know you said, you had these toys growing up, you played with them, and then in the 90s, that's when you became a true collector. And then has it been consistent since, or have there been periods where you dipped?
It's been periods where it dipped, because again, I've gotten to a point where you have to pull back. You got to ease up on the reins. Another thing is when you find yourself, you're like, I got a new stuff. Okay, I got to put it in the closet or put it in the attic. That's almost like it's becoming now a habit, or what's the phrase? There's a new independent thing that's being done. Was it the plastic crack?
Okay,
right, and that's what it is. You need your plastic crack fix. And there's actually a documentary coming out with that, and I'll send you the link on that.
Yeah, please do.
And that's the thing. It's like I gotta have it, and it gets to a point where you gotta pull back. For me, I can't answer for everybody. I think that's the biggest thing. You can't answer for everybody talking about yourself, because you may offend certain people, purists. Is a big. But it gets to a point where you got to pull back. You got to ease up, because then it gets to the point where, okay, I gotta have that. I have that. I wasn't a completist then, but all of a sudden now I gotta relax. you gotta think about, okay, I'm limited on room, I'm limited on stuff,
Yeah, I was gonna ask, I mean, do you set any rules for yourself? Like if you find that you're getting to an attic space, you're like, nope, I gotta stop.
Well, and it's funny, my girlfriend, she'll be like, because I'm not gonna be like, changing one day and all of a sudden like the friggin' ceiling drops because you had stuff there. I try to keep it where upstairs is like for the empty boxes. Okay. Things like that. But then when it gets to a point where you're putting stuff in the attic or you're putting stuff in the closet and it's been there for like 6 months to a year, either switch it out change it up. Just, at times, hey, pretend it this is truly is your toy store. Change the stock around, change everything around. But if it gets to a point where you got it just to say you have it and then it's just sitting there, you know what? It's time to let it go. Especially when it gets to a point where you've got 20 DC multiverse, because I had to have that wave, I had to get that, and they're still up there. Come on, everybody knows what they're ranging between $19.99 to $21.99. You sell it on eBay, you're going to take a loss on it. You're going to, eBay and PayPal takes 14 to 15% off of that. Plus, everybody wants everything to shipping for free and everything. You're losing money. That you have to put it in that perspective. You're losing money.
Well, so kind of on the money note of this, I mean, do you collect with any monetary objective? Like, I'm going to sell this at some point and it'll be a down payment for a house? Or is it really you collect to display and enjoy?
I collect to display and enjoy. I remember back in the day, everything had to be two. One to open and one for... And it got to a point, it's just like, what am I doing? And, I would trade other stuff for them. Or what it was is I would sell it to get something else. So I wasn't saving money, but I wasn't losing money anyway, because it was an equal swap and everything like that. There are some items that were rarities where they made money on their own. A perfect example was, or still is, and I still have it because I think it's a great set, but I haven't opened it. The San Diego Comic-Con X-Force Marvel Legends 6-pack, which was Wolverine, Archangel, and oh my god, I forgot. I'm dropping
Cyclops, Phoenix,
something like that. Someone's gonna correct me and be like, "Dude, you have this and you can't even remember." Psylocke. I'm sorry, Psylocke. Okay. So you had those. Bought it for got it from the Hasbro toy shop. And I think it went for $80. Now it's going for $300, but I'll never get rid of it because it's such a great set. I'm not a seller. I'm not looking to try to flip and everything like that. But if it's something that I've gotten bored with, or something that's just you know what, I'm not into that type of collecting of that theme or item anymore, I'll sell it or I'll trade it. But no, I'm not in. Like I said, I'm 45. I'm not looking to take these and, bury them with me when I die and everything. If anything, it's going to be sell them when I get old enough or get older, save the money for my nephew, put it towards his college.
That's very nice.
Put it towards my goddaughter, put it towards college. It's like that. I'm not looking to, and like I said, I've got a humble collection. It only looks big because I got cathedral ceilings in it, so I just go straight up.
Well, it was a while back we did a hangout with Steve Odo day, and yes. I think you couldn't make it, but you posted a video.
Yes.
And I saw you in that room with everything, and I'm like, and I filed that away. I'm we'll do an episode at some point.
It's funny. I have a friend, Christian. Props to Christian, Jose, Jeff, Geraldo. Great bunch of guys. That's our collector crew. That's a bunch of great guys. Christian used to work at a video store. A video store was closing down. So he had if you ever been to the old video stores, I mean before Blockbuster, you know what I mean? As ancient as old comic book stores. You would have the big display cases in the back made out of wood with the sliding glass where you had video games or video, whatever case may be. So they were selling pretty much everything. He was just I'm getting rid of the video case and everything. Well, how much? He goes, $25. I'm like, wow. And they had 2 of them. Keep in mind, 5 foot tall, 1 foot deep, 7 feet wide. I'm trying to get this in my buddy's truck. And at the time I had moved back with my parents because I had, gotten divorced, everything like that. But I still had the collection. Putting it in the room and just again, you just feel wow, typical stereotype living with your parents at the collection. Haven't done that for quite some time, folks. But and I remember it just had everything just stored in there. But got it for $25. When I moved into the place that we are in now, we've been there for probably 6 years. I'd gotten that display case, couldn't fit it into the townhouse of where we are, so I sold it to a friend of mine who has a toy store, Farpoint Toys. Awesome bunch of folks there. They're in Jersey near Atlantic City. Sold him that, and then I had the extra shells from the other display case that I couldn't use. So I actually built that whole one wall using the old glass shelves and hardware. So the part where it's like all those glass shelves where it's the G.I. Joe and Transformers, that's all from that huge display case.
Oh, wow.
So, again, girlfriend's impressed, but she's just like, holes in my walls. I'm like, hey, you gave me this one room.
Well, I wanted to ask you about her because I'm always curious what the significant other thinks about this. But before we talk about her, I read an interview that you gave with a collecting website, and you talked about your origin as a collector and the role that your grandmother played.
Yes. Actually, two of them. Grandma Mary, we'll always call them Grandma. Grandma Mary, that's on my dad's side, and Grandma Audia from my mom's side. So, Puerto Rican grandmother, Italian grandmother. So, my grandmother, she, abuela, really, Amsterdam Avenue in the city. And then when my step-grandfather had passed away, she had moved to Puerto Rico. So, during the summer, for about like 6 months, she would come, visit us, everything like that. So, she always had something in tow coming from Puerto Rico. She got me my jazz. She got me my Wheeljack. She got me my Headquarters. She got me my Dragonfly. She got me my Airborne. And among others, like a couple of Mask. That was one of my also favorites. My grandma Mary lived in Portchester. So the biggest one was the Gallery Mall, right in White Plains. That's when you had Heroes Headquarters.
Heroes World? Or?
I think, Heroes World. Was it Heroes World?
That was the comic shop. That's where I got that of Superman.
I'm telling you, that one. And then you had across on the other side, oh my God, Heaven.
Comic Book Heaven.
Yes.
The late Comic Book Heaven, yeah.
I'm telling you, so that, plus on top of that, you had Sears. Sears had, at that time, some awesome toys. And JCPenney's, that was the other thing. JCPenney's had some great stuff. So Grandma Mary got me my Transformers. She got me Thundercracker. She got me Skywarp. She got me oh my God, the G.I. Joe Rattler. She got me the hovercraft. Like they all control. Oh, and also she got me Web of Terror, Hot Wheels, Spider-Man track. She got me Smurfs. I still have, I lost all the Smurfs, but I still have my Azrael and Gargamel. Still have them there. She worked for the telephone company, so she got me an Ertl telephone company metal van. And little things here and there. But yeah, they were the big contributors in my life. And there's a picture of them in my toy room. 2 photos of them that I framed out, because those are my ladies. Those my grandmothers, they were awesome. Always awesome.
I love hearing that. A few moments ago you mentioned, the comic book stereotype of living at home. And I feel like another stereotype is that often it's and particularly the female family members are always against it. It's nice to hear, something like that. And it's not always the case.
Well, they spoiled. Grandma's grandpa, they spoil us. So, that was their revenge. When their kids used to put them through hell, they were like, all right, now there's my payback. I'm going to load your kids up with sugar and cake and cookies and toys. And then there you go. Take them.
And then so flash forward to today and the girlfriend. I mean, does she come to shows with you?
She went to Star Wars Celebration with me last year in Florida. She went with me to JoeCon in 2010. And you know what it is? We made a trip of it. So JoeCon 2010, we were in Rhode Island, and it was funny. I met her in 2009, August of 2009. So in less than a year later, I was just like, let's do a trip to Rhode Island. Okay, yeah, great. What do you want to do? We're going to do G.I. Joe convention. Wait, what? But again, I did my thing. She did. She's a very independent woman. Awesome. 3rd degree black belt. She kicked my ass. But she's not into collecting but she knows how important it is to me. And again, the main thing is, you know what? Let's make sure the bills are paid, the mortgage is paid, there's food on the table, car payments are done, car repairs are done. Whatever money's left over, then we have our fun.
Right. No, that makes sense. I mean, I think about this all the time, and within the alternate realities community, and a lot of the customers I saw over the years, and you never want to judge anyone's situation. It's like whatever works for you. But there were certain things I observed that I always thought like that would not work for me. I mean, I'm really lucky and blessed. I mean, my wife is like actually into a lot of this stuff.
Awesome.
Not to the same degree with certain things, though. With others, yes. Yeah. And, so like we go to the shows together and she's into the cosplay now. So like it's great. And we've talked about this. I mean, I think if she weren't into it, but she was still supportive of it, that would be fine. Yes. I think it's some of the things that I've observed that always troubled me, were situations where the significant other is clearly actively opposed to it. And I guess what troubled me about that is, clearly it's something it's important to the person. So that type of situation, I don't think would have ever worked for me.
Well, I had that before. That was a situation with me when I was married and everything. But I was very lucky, and again, I'm sure you were also very lucky that we met our significant others who support us in what we do, love us for who we are. Biggest thing is, she goes, "You make me laugh." And it was funny. We had a conversation. She goes, "If I would have met you years ago and everything, I wouldn't have paid mind to you," because she was into the hard rock metal dude with the long hair and the leather jackets and everything. I am not that. I am stressed out with gray hair.
You're wearing a shirt that says "Still plays with toys."
Plays with toys. Again, T-shirt from Jordan at his store and everything, which is totally true of me. I'm totally not that. Hey, I'm trying to, watch my weight and everything like that. And she pushes me, and she's always telling me, "Hey, keep on, walk, go run." My dad, he's still in business in Yonkers. He's a karate instructor. So he's been doing this same business over 40 years, American Olympic Karate. And he pushes me. He goes, "Come on, just go." And he does not let up, and I may stop and pant. I'm like, I got a swig of water. Okay, great. We're going to add 5 more minutes onto you into the workout and everything. But getting back to her, she pushes me. It's funny. The biggest joke is she's never seen Star Wars before, any of them, and of course it would be like, and I'll joke around, I'm like, "Come on, let's see Star Wars." She was like, "Hey, every time when Sex and the City is playing and you come in, I change the channel. I don't put you through that, so you don't put me through that. But you know what? We'll go and watch the Marvel movies together.
That's great.
We got like that crew that I said. We'll all go and everything like that. And of course, she likes Thor. But she enjoys it. She takes it as an entertaining thing, an entertaining movie and everything. But I don't force it on her to like this. "Oh, you gotta like this," and everything like that. She does say, she goes, "Hey, do you want, when it comes to like my birthday or our Christmas," and I'll be like, "Baby, what do you want? Well, I'll get that for you," whatever case may be. And she'll be like, "Well, what do you want?" And of course it'll be like, "Do I want clothes?" "No, I want the Batmobile that just came out. That's remote control." "Okay."
That's all.
There you go.
That reminds me. So in terms of what you're buying, I mean, at shows, but generally as well. So is it a mix of vintage stuff and mod? Like, you're still getting new stuff that's coming in?
Yeah, yes, and also, being mindful. Like, I refuse to pay that crazy price for a modern.
Right.
If I could find it, again, at Amazon or any of the retails, or I luck out, or whatever the case may be. But I'm not stalking stores. I'm not waiting, before I go to work. I got to check out Walmart for the next 3 weeks because they said something just appeared at Walmart in California. Oh, now it's in Michigan. Oh, there was a sighting of this in Virginia. If I luck out and find it and it's there, that's cool. I try to be cost effective on that. I refuse to pay the crazy prices. With the vintage stuff, you do your homework. You do, you check eBay, you check completed items, you just get an idea. There's still going to be haggling. they're still going to be like, hey, would you, you have it for 50. Would you do 45? Would you do 40? There's always
Sure.
going to be that, and it's just like with buying a house. You're not going to insult them. They have it for 50. Would you do 20? I'm not going to even counter that.
That's the situation we've been in as we've been house hunting and going back and forth. And yeah, I mean, you take all of that into account. Kind of the dance that both sides are doing.
But like I said before, you also have to have it where no matter, even, you've gotten emotionally attached to it, but if the price ain't right, you got to be willing to walk away,
right,
and know something else is going to happen or come down the pipe.
As far as stores, have you ever been to It's Vintage in New Jersey?
No.
It's a great shop. So the gentleman who runs it, his name is Alan. He's a great guy. I've had him on the show twice now. The first time to talk about his show generally, and then the second time to talk about the work he does customizing action figures.
Really?
He's very talented. If you follow him on Instagram, you can see all the stuff that he's been posting, and on the Facebook page.
Out. Cool.
I think you in particular would really enjoy the store. It's about an hour from here. It's in Mendham, New Jersey.
Okay.
It's so well curated. He's got a great selection.
Nice.
It's a great spot. I think you'd like it.
It's vintage. I got to check that. We'll talk later, and I'll look that info up. Definitely, man.
As far as are you into the customs at all or not?
I do customs here and there, like not total. Like I'll take. I've taken a couple of the. I think when the Sky Strikers came out, I took and made the Robotech VF1S out of it, and was taking pieces of like a beat up old Matchbox Robotech jet, adding some things there. A couple of friends who do customs, like they did instead of in the Sky Striker, you got the bomb that's in the center. Somebody did a custom cast of the gun, like the large gun, that putting it in there, a custom head, things like that. Some of the Marvel Legends, because again, I gotta tell you, it's gotten to a point where you could find stuff on websites, on Facebook. A lot of the pages, a couple of these folks, they do custom heads or casts where you could paint them up yourself. So doing a custom, instead of you just putting like the Plasto or the putty on it and they've cut down a lot of the time. All you have to do is do some little tweaks here and there and do it yourself. And it makes it more fun. Like I did a custom Marvel Legends blade that was supposed to come out in that wave with Punisher, but they never did. Somebody did a custom head of it. Came out friggin' awesome. I did some patches of to make a Firestar Marvel Legends using a couple of figures here and there, pieces, and it was just awesome. I mean, recently, the Black Series for the 6-inch TIE Fighter that came out, I recently did it where, again, being cost effective, waiting until they went down to like $40. I did it to look like a vintage TIE Fighter with that bluish gray color with the black panels and everything. That came out pretty cool. And then again, you talk to people on these sites. A guy did a 3D print of the back thruster for the TIE Fighter.
Wow.
I was like, oh, dude, this is awesome. I have it hanging off with magnets and everything like that. It's one of those things where it's just to pass the time. Like I'll set it where it's like either Thursday or a Saturday. I dedicate like an hour to it and go it. So it's just the fun of doing it instead of trying to rush it out.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, awesome. Just these little hobbies, these little things that just keep you sane.
Yeah. So, I mean, circling back to the conventions, it's funny. I don't know that we've talked about conventions.
I know, right? Okay, so the focus will be conventions going forward in the next 3 minutes.
I think people listening to this, I hope they'll enjoy and also identify with a lot of the things that we're talking about. But as far as the convention side of it, so like when you go to a show, like the doors open, where do you go first?
I'll go. I would have to say probably to the main tables, like Marvel, DC, because usually at that point they're giving away comic books. Usually at that point they're doing the comic books. Lego, Hallmark, they usually have the exclusive because those go quick. Bandai, they're usually doing the tickets because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll give you a ticket instead of you waiting online. They'll be like, okay, here's the ticket, come back at this time. A lot of the tickets for the inkers, the drawers, the writers, Jim Lee, that's a big one. If you're not in there and you haven't gotten a ticket for the first 20,
Right.
you're not going to see him for that day. Frank Miller, you get online. He has the infamous beanbag. I remember I stumbled upon that line by accident. I'm like, what is this for? Oh, Frank Miller. I'm like, oh, he's here. I'm like, oh man, I didn't bring my comic books. I didn't bring my year one. I didn't bring my, all that other stuff. And they were like, oh no, he'll be here tomorrow. Oh, okay, great. What do you have to do? Oh, pull out a bean. I'm like, wait, what? They were like, oh yeah, the colored beans. I'm like, all right. Oh, you got a green bean. Get out.
It's so funny. I had actually never heard about that.
Oh yeah, when he's showing up, what they'll do is you get online for the bean bag and you pull out, and you could go back around again. And what they'll do is they'll limit how many times. So they'll be like, okay, for the first 10 people, and that's I lucked out. And you get the wristband, you put it on, and then. But I'll tell you, there's people there, but like, I'll give you $20 for that wristband. No, I'm not here to make it for something like that, for a legend like that.
Yeah.
No.
It's funny in the lead up to that when you talked about, asking about like what people were online for. That's probably one of the funniest things to me. Like that question, either are you online? Like, is this a line,
yeah,
or
yes.
what are you online for?
Yeah. It's just all the time. But you know what? It's okay because you find it that you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh man, just look at the sun, whatever. And then you find yourself like, oh man, I just became that person.
So I mean, it sounds like I guess my assumption going in was, you go in just to hunt, but it sounds like you take advantage of the other aspects of conventions too.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, like you're waiting on those lines for so long,
especially at those big shows.
Oh
sure.
yeah, you're waiting online, and you know what? You want to get whatever you can, and again, you get there early. And, for me, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got there at 8 or something. You got people who've been camping out since 3 a.m. I mean, last year going to the convention was during the time when McDonald's was doing the Szechuan sauce giveaway.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy, we walked up to the closest one that was near the convention. And
this is New York?
In New York. And I was like, yeah, we're here for the Szechuan sauce. They were like, yeah, see her? She was here since 3 a.m. I'm like, wait, 3 a.m. sitting on the street. Bye. That was at that point. But the conventions, I look to see any of the celebrities that are there. Get some of the artists to sign. Artist Alley, that's awesome.
The Artist Alley is really cool. It's funny. I don't know if I talked about this on the New York Comic Con episode we did last season, but Artist Alley, at least from my perspective, wasn't as packed as I thought it was going to be at this past show.
That's the thing with New York Comic Con. They're always changing up where it is. One time, I think they combined a lot because they're doing construction last year. So they were doing that. So it used to be over at the far end. So you had that whole galley that covered that. So now they condensed everything where it was downstairs over to the left, and it was hard to get into. So I think they limited how much. But I lucked out because there wasn't a lot of people. We were able to get a lot of signatures and signings and commissions done from artists. I have a friend, Ben Bishop, awesome guy. He did, I think it was Batman. Oh my God, it was a sketch cover, and he did I was like, the anti-heroes from Image. One guy from Image, one guy from DC, one guy from Marvel, and he did on the rooftop for me, Spawn with Batman with Daredevil.
Cool.
Hanging out there. I was just like, oh, that is so cool. But I'm big on supporting all those artists because they're paying for those tables. And let's be honest, those tables are not cheap.
No.
So to have those artists come in and take their time and do stuff like that, I have no problem. $5 for a cigarette, you got it. $10 for a cigarette, $20 you got it. And I'm all for supporting these. Perfect example, and celebrities you would never think of. John Leguizamo. Got to meet John Leguizamo last year because he came out with a comic book that was based on his Freak show that was.
Oh, okay.
So we got the artist was there. He signed, and John Leguizamo. Again, most humble guy you could ever meet. And then you have these artists here that's just, yes, I will take that. I would love to contribute to your cause, because all these guys are independent.
Yeah.
So that was really some great times. That's one of the big things. If you can get any of the freebie stuff, any of the exclusives if you can, but the main thing is getting to see the celebrities, getting the artists, the talking to the writers of these. Grant Morrison, one of my favorites. And then if you can, you make it over to the right, and that's where all the toy and comic books are all there. That's the big thing. And when there's something big going on, like right now, it was funny when we saw Walt Simonson at the recent show and everything. All of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, I got to get a Beta Ray Bill. I got to get a first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. You can't find them anywhere except for eBay, but and it's just like, man. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like when something big is going on, you've got everybody searching for that same comic. Oh, and the same response is, oh, I just sold it. Or, man, I'm getting a lot of those today. Or I'm getting a lot of those these weekends. First appearance of Spider-Man's black suit.
Yeah, well, like our friends at Zap Comics, they do a lot of conventions.
Awesome.
They're fantastic. And they'll often post like what the hot books were of the weekend.
Corey,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. And so I think most recently, the first appearance of Carnage has been really big. We have the Venom movie coming out. Yep. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. As far as, again, like hunting for the toys and especially the vintage stuff at these shows, I mean, like, what do you generally find? I mean, like, what type of selection are you typically running into?
You're finding a lot of, it's mixed. It's a mixed bag. You're seeing a lot of the but I got to be honest with you. For me, I'm seeing a lot of also the modern stuff. There's a lot of modern stuff out there. There is a decent amount of vintage, be it loose, be it a mixed bag of every little bit of Transformers, G.I. Joe, Mask, couple of like the Godaiking, the die-cast robots and everything like that. Here and there, you've got your buckets of odds and ends.
When you see a bucket like that, are you like, oh, this is great, I got to dig through it?
I'll be honest with you, but of vintage stuff. Because if it's the modern stuff, it's like, oh, box of Transformers, 5 and under, but it's the modern stuff. It's not, But when you see a bin that's just loose vintage figures, be it you want to use it to fix an arm, fix a broken leg, a crotch, a knee, you're looking for those. You can get them for like a couple of bucks each. That's perfect. Those are great. But I'll be honest with you, it's more modern. It's a lot of what I find with like a New York Comic Con. It's a lot of modern stuff from the past 5 years, 10 years maybe.
When you go to one of these toy-centric conventions, are you finding that opens it up more and you're seeing more of the vintage stuff?
Oh, big time.
I mean, that makes sense, I suppose.
NJ Toy Con, Jersey Collector Con, Retro Con, Zolo Con, those are vintage. That's vintage stuff. That's over. There are some modern there, but it's a complete flip because it's all vintage stuff.
Well, that was always the joke at Alternate Realities. Well, not really so much of a joke. This is what happened when people would come in wanting to sell their books, and it was like, oh, I have really, really old stuff. And, they can make 50s, 60s, 70s even, and it's, from 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, okay. And the other thing is, you have to understand, if you don't want to go the route of eBay or anything like that, so you go to the conventions. Because also a lot of the conventions, they're buying stuff. There's people that they have their booth set up, but they're also buying. And you have to understand, you go in there and it's just like, I've got this here. And it's sold on eBay for $50. Okay, great. So what do you want for it? $50. No.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, how the prices at these shows compare to what you're finding on eBay.
They're higher than eBay. at times, because again, keep in mind, you've got booths that are going for $1,500. When you factor in the booth goes for, let's just say, $1,500, then you're paying parking. You're paying rental of a U-Haul or a truck. You got to find place to park that. You're paying tolls.
If you're out of town, your hotel. I mean, and especially New York Comic Con.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we have one of the previous guests on the show is from a store, First Aid Comics in Chicago. You know, and they come out for New York Comic Con every year.
And keep in mind, a lot of it because, hey, I'm all for unions. You know, you're protected. It's like one of those like necessary evils. You got to have it. You got to pay your dues, but you got to have it. They're there to protect you. So a lot of these, like back in the day, it used to be, you know, you go to the front of whatever the venue is and you give the guy, hey, here's $20. Let me stay. No, not anymore. They were like, no, I can't do that. I can't accept it. You got a half hour to dump that stuff out. I'm being harsh by saying dump that stuff, but it's like you got a half hour to get that stuff out. Go. And then you got to break down on that Sunday. So Sunday is, I think, what is it? They're open until like probably like around 5, I think.
Yeah, it's not right. That's the
so
early
around
day.
5. You got to be out of there by 7. So you got guys just hustling, breaking down, blah, 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 blah. You know, I have friends who have it down to a science where it's just like, okay, we got the boxes here. Like every year it's something new. So instead of having the cardboard box, you save the cardboard boxes of everything that you saved. Instead of putting it and bringing them back with you, you save a little spot behind the curtain somewhere. So once they give you the okay and they're shutting off the lights and they go, everybody's got to go. Everybody's time to go. Break it down. Have everything typed up, closed up, everything like that. And you've got the guys, vans out front. And you guys are hustling down the elevator. Stories with the elevator of everybody cramping up, forget it. Escalator shut off. It's not even on. You got to walk down the escalator with the boxes. And it's a procession. Go down. Then you give the hand truck to that guy. You dump all this up, bring the hand truck back up. He's got his own hand truck going back and forth. It's an organized chaos.
Right.
I think that's the best way.
You know, it's interesting as you're talking about all of the, you know, factors that a vendor at a show has to contend with. And again, you have the perspective of, you know, helping out at booths and then also being there as a collector and customer yourself. Do you feel like there's any kind of tension and or disconnect between fans who are there expecting flea market-esque deals versus the vendors who, again, have all of this overhead and they can't necessarily accommodate that?
You know, you do get a perfect example. I think they use the word the look-sees, where it's just like, how much is that? Oh, this is great. You know, usually Thursdays are the big day because it used to be Thursday were just for professionals, and then you had so now when you know they open up for New York Comic Con and also San Diego Comic Con, that's the big day, and you want to get and sell the most out. But yeah, there's a lot coming in where you get like, and then you get like the sneeries where it's just like, wait, it's that. Oh. You know, you have to keep in mind, this is not a big box store. This is not a garage sale. This is not a flea market. You know, this isn't the road show down, you know, at the flea market down the road. This is a convention. They specialize in pop culture. Vintage items to modern items, and they're going to price point it accordingly. It's going to be at sometimes a little bit higher than eBay. Sometimes they're going to be extremely higher because keep in mind, someone's not going to sell authentic 12 backs from Star Wars graded on eBay for $15,000 or $1,500. You know, you're not going to find an authentic Boba Fett that runs for $10,000 to $15,000 on eBay. No, you're going to see it from a private collector, or you're going to have it showcased from a well-known seller. That's pretty much it. Like that's your extreme. Like you'll see. The power of the Force, the card, the with the coins, the Superpowers collection, all carded, which is awesome seeing that. you're not going to get them for retail price. You're not going to get them for $50. You're going to pay
Right.
$100 to $200, and you have to be expecting that.
I talked about this a couple of seasons ago, but at San Diego Comic-Con, I went, again, just in 2016, and I found a booth there that had a bunch of the Superpowers figures. Most of them were not carded. They were in little bags, but I picked up the Lex Luthor there.
Nice.
But like something like that was so cool to find. I mean, like, when's the last time you had a moment like that where you stumbled upon a booth and you were like, oh, I can't believe they have X?
I found I guess from a comic convention standpoint, I found a Marvel Legends Spider-Man where I guess they call it the Todd McFarlane one, where it's a darker tone, but it's rare.
Okay. Somebody
was selling it for $10, and I was like, how much? 10, like, they didn't know. That's the other thing. If you're going to be something, know your product.
Yeah.
I was just $10, toy comma. Okay. But yeah, I found it for $10. And I remember when I got it, and some guy was just like, how much did you get that for? I'm like, $10. He goes, good find. I was like, I know. But that was like one of my biggest finds. I think from JoeCon was finding the carded Snake Eyes. I've always been a fan of Snake Eyes. So to find that card, and I got it, and the card was like a little ripped. It wasn't graded, but it was just like, I don't care. I got a carded Snake Eyes. So I got a good deal on it. Again, I spent money, but going in, you have to know, going to a convention, if this is what you're looking for, you're going to be spending that kind of money, but spend it on again, Steve-isms. Spend it on something that you know that you can't find anywhere else, that you're only going to find it at a convention.
Right.
You're only going to, you know what I mean? So if it's going to be like that, make sure it's in good condition. If you can spend that kind of money, get what you're paying for.
Do you have any other strategies? Like, do you case for like do you go to all of the booths before you'll make purchases, or like as soon as you see something you go for it?
Yes, I'll go to all the booths. And you have to know going in, there's a good chance, okay, I went through 3 booths, I'm going to go back to that guy.
Right.
All right, man, I'm going to get it. I just sold it.
Well, yeah, you don't want to be that flat squirrel. That's the thing.
And I'm telling you, it's gambling. It's gambling. It's time. It's almost to a point where that's why it's so important going in there that first day, as soon as it opens. And you have to set a strategy out. You have to know, like, the greatest app that New York Comic Con has is every year they come out with a new app for that year, and it breaks down the exhibitors, the artists, everything it is. I'm telling you, and they give it to you a while.
Yeah, the apps are solid. Yeah, I use them for, ReadPop, they put on, obviously, C2E2 as well, and a bunch of other shows. But I've used the app for C2E2 at New York Comic Con. It is very helpful.
And it's there for a reason. You have to plan everything out. If you know you're going in there for and it's kind of hard because you can't go in there knowing I'm going to do everything. You're not.
I could not agree more. And especially with those biggest shows like New York and San Diego. I remember the first year I went to San Diego Comic-Con, this was 2011 at this point. And, well, it was 2011 at that point, too.
Yeah.
But, I guess what surprised me was how much of the day I killed, just waiting in line for a panel. And it is one of those things, like at those shows in particular, like you really do need to prioritize. And you need to accept the fact that you're probably only get to do a couple of things. So make sure there are things that count and that you really want and that you're willing to invest the time in.
Yes. And I compare those lines to the same lines when you're going to Disney and Great Adventure.
Sure.
Pick out the things you really want to go to as soon as they open. Knock those out first. Now, of course, panels you can't control because there are different times. It isn't like all the panels are running as soon as we open the doors. Plus, they've made it to the point where now you have to go to Radio City. You have to go to Town Hall.
Yeah, they have spread out a lot.
You have to go to the PlayStation Theater because they're limited on room. But you have to go in there knowing, okay. And you know what? People will knock it, but I'm glad they do it this way. Lego, they now have a lottery. Bandai, they have a lottery. Fun School, they have a lottery. because it gets to a point where it's just like, you know what? We have to be fair to everybody. And unfortunately, we have to do it this way. Toy Tokyo, they finally doing the same thing, either associating their exclusives with Funko or they do a lottery. Toy Tokyo, awesome place. If you ever been there in New York City, have so much stuff there, but the past few years, it's waiting on that long line, and you spend around close to 3 hours just to make sure you have it. Because again, they limit how many days.
Right.
I don't want to be there for the next 3 days waiting online for 3 hours, and it's like, oh, we ran out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like any effort to eliminate those long lines is welcome, because you don't want people tied up in a line all day creating a logjam. You want them walking around shopping. You want them buying things, buying sketches. Doing all that. So it's a successful show, for everybody. So I guess one of the last things that I wanted to ask you. I mean, how long have you been going to shows?
I have been going to. I've gone to every New York Comic Con. Prior to that, we used to go to the AppleCon. AppleCon.
Big Apple,
right across the street from Madison Square. So that was the one that was awesome because I live in Rockland County, so that was easily taking New Jersey Transit right over to Penn Station. Right there, you get off, boom, back. But New York Comic Con, that was the big one. Like, that was just like, wait a minute, like, are we competing with SDCC? And I remember the first year. John Romita Sr. I had Amazing Spider-Man number 50. And it was, I think I told you this story where he was just like, I think him and his wife were there. And it was, he's doing signatures for $5. I was just like, this John Romita.
Yeah, that's quite a deal.
I was like, here's a 10. Take the 10. Don't worry. And he signed it. And then the next year, what was that? I think 2006, I think. That was the first New York Comic Con. 2007 was the first time Stan Lee showed up.
Okay.
And I got to get, because I still have to this day my first Spider-Man comic that I ever got. It was like a Marvel Tales with Spider-Man. It was with that computer that was killing people. And the issue number escapes me. But my brother was there, and I had that one. And I had Amazing Spider-Man 50 that John Romita signed. And it was only one comic. And again, that was where you lucked out. You just waited online, and then Stan Lee showed up. Now it's like, you got to pay this amount of money, whatever. And it's... a lot has happened from that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole with the Stan Lee thing, but for anyone who's not familiar, I mean, you can look it up. It's again, his health has been an issue, and it seems like there are people in his circle who might not have his best interests at heart. There's been a lot going on about this. Our friend Dan at 13th Dimension, he wrote a think piece about how conventions should stop booking Stan Lee. I mean, from the fan perspective, I mean, where do you fall on something like that? Because it genuinely seems like there's an issue here, and it's like how should it be addressed?
Well, it comes one of those situations where it's like, man, that's not right that they're doing, however it's being handled with that. But then again, it's just like, oh wow, I'm getting a signature from Stan Lee. Like you have to break that to sound being greedy versus, don't. That's a 95-year. McFarlane, he did a recent thing where he was going, people are saying, I went to see Stan Lee, but no, I went to see my 95-year-old friend. That's what it's coming down to. The man is 95 years old. The way I see it is, you had all that time to get a signature from him. If you don't have one by now, why'd you wait that long?
Yeah, I mean, right, and he has been doing convention appearances for quite some time now. There was a video in particular that was making the rounds where, his handlers were telling him how to spell his own name, and it's the kind of thing where, from the fan perspective, I think, ultimately, for the most part, I think most of the people, it is coming from a good place. Like, they're fans, they want to meet, but when, you see something like that, it's
this isn't right.
This isn't right, and if you are such a fan, right, you wouldn't want that for this creator who you love his work so much.
Like I said, when it's one of those moments where you want to end it on a good point. That being said, I remember Stan Lee, the first time I met him, he signed my comic book. And again, he signed it with John Romita, Amazing Spider-Man 50. And again, you're in front of a legend. You're shaking. You're bumbling words. And all I could say is, Stan, you are the man. He stops signing it. He looks at me and goes, and don't you forget it. And it was just like, that was my moment.
Yeah.
That was my moment. Not a pre-set up, put your arm like this, and he's sitting on the stool and whatever. It was a moment I had.
Right.
Not a conveyor belt, not an assembly line. You know, and I'll show you next time. We weren't allowed to do, even back then, back in 2006, 2007, you weren't allowed to do the pictures with him or do a shake hand. But it got to a point where I was telling my brother, Mike, get a picture. And it's a picture of me looking down. My eyes were closed and Stanley signed the comic. And then I did the other one with my brother standing there. His eyes were open and Stanley signing that comic book. That's how I want to remember it.
Yeah.
There was another time I think he signed my Spider-Man 100. I was like, Mr. Stanley, how you doing? How you doing? But it's there. Those are my moments.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a moment where it's like, it looks like he doesn't even know he's here.
Yeah.
You know, I want to know it ended with a good moment that I had with Mr. Excelsior, the man who read me comics when I was under the covers with a flashlight. That's how I want to remember it.
Well said.
You know?
So, I mean, it's not like you've been going to conventions for decades, but I mean, it's a decent amount of time. Mm-hmm. I mean, in these 10 plus years that you've been going to shows, I mean, what sorts of changes have you seen in them? I mean, probably the rise of cosplay is among the biggest of them, right?
I think the combining of the different shows, because you would have the anime shows, you would have the convention shows, you'd have the cosplay. Everything now is all one. So you're seeing different, from the toy lines to, and keep in mind, and that was the big thing with San Diego Comic-Con. It's not just a comic convention anymore.
No, I mean, San Diego in particular is I mean, probably the most pop culture heavy.
Yeah, and that's what, Reed and New York Comic-Con is. It's covering the whole scope of pop culture, from TV, movies, to the toys, to the artists, to the cosplays. It's everything. It's getting busy. It's getting very, very, very busy, to the point where you gotta, we were talking about planning before. It isn't so much figuring out, okay, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do here, who I'm gonna see. You gotta pack a lunch. You gotta pack a lot of water. Know that your shoulders are going to get worn out because you're going to be walking around, you're going to be bumping into people.
Yep.
You got to have you have to be patient.
It's funny. I put a call out on Facebook. I was like, what kind of topics, do people want to hear about this season as we're talking about conventions? And I got a lot of great suggestions, some tied in with things that have already been in episodes or will be in future episodes. And someone just today suggested a Comic-Con survival guide. Tips for people who are going to, especially like New York and San Diego for the first time. And I like that because I guess, I've been to both of those shows multiple times now. So I guess I kind of take it for granted. But it's true. It's like and they can be so intimidating and there's so much going on. So I think whether it's a full episode or part of an episode or something like that, I think we'll do some kind of like a survival guide. I think it'll be fun.
Definitely, because, and I would have to say, number one is, don't go in there thinking you're going to do everything on that first weekend of you ever going there.
Yep.
You're not going to see everything. And secondly, you have to have patience. Whether you're a newbie to this or you're a veteran at this, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people bumping into each other. There's a lot to see. There's goods and bads. That's how the bad is. You're going to be bumping into. You're going to be spending a lot of money, but you have to go in there. You could be frugal. You could do just the one day. You can do, if a lot of times they also have the professional passes.
Yep.
So for the press and but Doesn't mean you're getting into all the venues. It doesn't mean you're getting in there any early. But I would definitely say, definitely do a survival, because there's a lot going on. And like I said, the conventions, every year it's something new. There's, whether the hype is a movie, it's a game that's coming out, whether it's a new comic book or the new thing of, I got to get Star Wars this year, or I got to get G.I. Joe this year. Like right now, G.I. Joe, there's the fan base of G.I. Joe, but what's really is fantasy. Everybody wants to do something or get into something that takes them away from their normal dues. I'm not saying it's humdrum or anything. It's reality. This is what we do. We go to work, we get up, we go to sleep. We have that little time, that little break, that Saturday and Sunday, provided we're off on Saturdays and Sundays. Some of us, we work 6 days a week, 7 days a week. At the end of the day, you want to go somewhere where you can take a break and truly be yourself, or not be yourself. That's what's great about these conventions, because you can dress up and be somebody else. It's another Halloween. It's another Halloween, and you could be somebody else. Be that kid again. Bring your kids, bring your niece, bring your nephew, whatever. Just a time to just breathe and not worry about what's going on in the world for just a little bit. Not forgetting it, just take a break from our reality that we live in and just have fun. That's the main thing I could take out of that. Not going in and going, I got to pick up these exclusives because I want to sell them on eBay. I'm going to spend the whole time. And some of us are just going to the convention to just have a good time and just be like, I'm not looking to buy everything, but I want to pick up that first appearance of Punisher. I want to pick up that first Harley Quinn appearance. I want to pick up that first black suit of Spider-Man, that first Cable, that first Deadpool. That's all my focus is going to be. Not to come out of there with bags of stuff. Everybody has their own thing, but for me, it's at this point in my life, it's just to go there and just have fun.
Well, I couldn't think of a more perfect note to go out on here. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Thank you for having me on here. This is awesome. I've been, we keep passing each other in the, be it All Year Comics in Harrison, or talking to each other on Facebook and things like that. So to be part of this and help contribute to what you're doing, I'm all for that, man. And I wish you all the luck on this. Really, this is really, really cool.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this.
Oh, anytime.
I look forward to our next chat.
Definitely, man.
So thank you again. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another all-new episode. And until then, don't be a flat squirrel. This season of My Comic Shop History is brought to you in part by Undiscovered Realm in White Plains, New York. UR has the biggest selection of Funko Pops around, with more than 1,000 in stock, starting at only $5 each, as well as a large selection of rare, high-end, and exclusive Pops. UR also hosts daily card game and video game tournaments, and sets up at dozens of comic conventions across the country. Check out Undiscovered Realm in person or online, and be sure to tell them Desi Westside sent you.